But there's one venture that might see a recovery. Gyms and fitness facilities will open their doors once again under a modified general community quarantine. The tourism sector too might just get a much-needed lift as stakeholders plan on reopening tourist destinations via travel bubbles. Jeepney drivers, on the other hand, are adamant. No to alternative livelihoods. They say that they just want to be back on the road. We begin tonight's newscast with the Labor Department soft-pedaling data from the Philippine Statistics Authority that over 7 million Filipinos were unemployed in April. Secretary Silvestro Bello says the figures are neither actual nor factual. He does admit, though, that over 2,000 establishments have reported closure due to the impact of COVID-19. In Wednesday's Laging Handa briefing, Bello says the shutdown of these companies has resulted in around 69,000 job losses. Meanwhile, over 320,000 overseas Filipino workers have been displaced, more than 190,000 of whom do not want to return to the country. To cushion the impact of the virus on job security, the DOLE eyes to subsidize employers to help them maintain their workforce.
Our proposal, Sec Martin, is to give all employers a range of 25% to 50% subsidy for our employers, provided na hindi sila magtatanggal ng empleyado nila at kumari ay dadagdag sila ng empleyado.
With businesses heavily battered, small businesses are banking on loans from the government. But that, unfortunately, is coming in at a snail's pace, and lawmakers are not having it. Ria Fernandez explains the holdup in this report.
The Small Business Corporation bared during a House hearing earlier today that it has received over 10,000 loan inquiries about its 1 billion peso COVID-19 assistance to restart enterprises or CARES program since April. But as of June 8, only 12 applications have been approved and released.
Sana mas bilisan pa yung processing, and 12 pa lang. Eh, yung mga tao talaga nangangailangan na kasi talaga pera na pera.
The DTI-attached agency said they only had limited workforce in the past months. They have also informed their beneficiaries that the distribution will only commence once quarantine restrictions ease to ensure everyone's safety. Nevertheless, SB Corp President Luna Cacanando vowed to increase loan request approvals in the coming weeks. However, she warned that the budget for the program may not be enough to accommodate the surge of small businesses in need of assistance. The agency is hoping that the economic stimulus package, which was passed by the lower house recently, would be of great help in aiding COVID-hit businesses.
Yung pong 1.5 billion namin para do sa COVID-19 assistance to restart enterprises, we should be able to complete the approvals within July, at by August, ubos na po yun. In fact, September, October, November, December, wala na nga po kaming pondo na maipapautang po para sa restart enterprises po.
Some lawmakers advised the SB Corp to boost its information dissemination. They also recommended for the agency to coordinate with rural banks and cooperatives in a bid to hasten loan disbursement. First to express willingness to help the agency is the Development Bank of the Philippines. The bank also urged lawmakers to raise their authorized capital structure to up to 100 million pesos.
Multiplier effect. Alam ni Congressman Juni Cuba yan 9.5. So, ibig sabihin for 1 million, makakapag-utang po tayo ng as much as 9 billion.
Approve the committee level, House Bill 6795, increasing yung capital stake ng DBP. So, siguro, pag ready na to, okay na yung bibigay nyo sa SB Corp, saka sa small, medium enterprises.
Under the CARES program, businesses with up to 3 million pesos in capital can borrow 10,000 to 200,000 pesos, while those with a maximum capital of 15 million pesos can apply for up to 500,000 peso worth of loans. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Meanwhile, in the same House panel hearing, lawmakers slammed Land Bank of the Philippines after it tried to rationalize the inaccessibility of loans to farmers. While the lender's portfolio allows for an 800 million peso lending, LBP Assistant Vice President Generoso David says that structural problems persist, including the educational attainment of farmers.
Yung mga nasa farm sector natin, mostly yung naabot na pag-aaral nila elementary. So pag elementary graduate ka, you have no business sense. Hindi ka marunong mag-business, kaya mga traders ang nakikinabang sa'yo.
But David's explanation did not sit well with some of the lawmakers present in the inquiry.
Yun ang sinasabi ko lang, pwede naman sila bumaba, magdala sila ng mga tao sa front side talaga, sa mga magsasaka, mag-offer doon ng loan. Gawin nila kung ano ginagawa ng mga trader. Hindi rin nagpapalamig lang sila sa loob ng opisina nila.
Yung mindset na sinabi mo kanina, na ang farmers hindi nakapag-aral and they have no business sense, I think hindi appropriate. We have to give them a chance.
Here's one business venture that might warm up once again really soon. Gyms and fitness centers are gearing up for a possible reopening under the modified general community quarantine. But first, new protocols should be in place. Shaila Francisco shares with us the new rules for flexing.
Luigi spends 4 to 5 times a week in the gym before the lockdown. But with quarantine restrictions, he had to settle for workouts at home. He's hoping gyms will open soon.
Kasi sa bahay, medyo artificial yung mga gamit namin, mga water bottles. Pero mas okay sa gym kasi yung mga kompleto yung gamit. Malaking bagay na may coach kasi alam nila yung workout saka yung mga routines. Mas nabibigay nila ng mas maayos nila nabibigay.
Under the modified general community quarantine, gyms and fitness centers can open, but only up to 50% capacity. Workouts are limited to non-contact activities. With this, fitness centers are preparing to reopen under the new normal. This gym in Las Piñas, for one, outsourced the company to disinfect the whole facility. Once the gym reopens, equipment will be sanitized every after use. Clients may only stay for an hour and a half at the gym. Markers are put in place to ensure physical distancing. And to maximize the area, boxing equipment will remove since the activity is also a contact sport. Workout clothes will also be different. Clients should change shoes once inside the gym. Gloves and face masks are also mandatory.
Sa amin yung mga athletes, sasabihan namin sila na gumamit ng mask kung gusto nila yung training mask. We have training mask na talagang ginagamit for athletes. So yun kasi kaya nung capacity nung athletes na kahit naka-training mask sila. Pero pag mga beginner, siguro advice namin na mag-mask, pero yung thinness lang talaga. Okay, parang circulation din, yung breathing nila, hindi sila mahirapan.
Meanwhile, this obstacle course training center in Taguig will also limit clients to 30 from the usual 80. There will also be fences to limit contact. Rope-based workout are prohibited since ropes are difficult to sanitize. Unlike before, clients should bring their own towels, water bottles, and mats. Gym goers must set an appointment before going.
Kailangan mag-pre-book sila dun sa app namin kahit na yung tinatawag na self-train. So even if magsa-self-train sila, they're gonna need to book yung class na yun. So we won't be accepting walk-ins so that we can monitor yung clients. Of course, for parang contact tracing na rin siya.
The company says they will be affected by the cancellation of marathons and races since some of its customers train for these events. To minimize losses, they would continue to offer online classes to cater to clients working out from home. The Trade Department urges all fitness centers to do the same.
We would actually encourage that kasi sa panahon ngayon, e-commerce na talaga ang the thing of the day. Yun na yung bago. It is our new normal. So, merong e-classes sila or e-training na hindi sila kailangan pumunta physically sa gym or sa fitness centers. We would encourage that.
The DTI also advises clients to conduct their own sanitation of gym equipment aside from those being offered at the gym. Shaila Francisco, We Are One News.
We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns, For those who can't wait to travel, you might have to work on your itinerary. Tourism stakeholders are studying the possibility of opening some destinations soon. But as for jeepney drivers, not everyone is on board with the alternative livelihood being offered by the government. These big stories when we come back. I'm Jess De Los Santos and you're watching The Big Story. Itching to fly? That might happen soon as the tourism department aims to create travel bubbles to save the country's tourism industry. But what exactly are travel bubbles? Dale De Vera explains.
Amid the COVID-19 health crisis, tourism stakeholders are eyeing to reopen tourist destinations with no COVID-19 cases. Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat, Environment Secretary Roy Simatu, and Interior Secretary Eduardo Año are set to go to Boracay Island tomorrow to discuss developments with the local government unit. With the pandemic badly hitting the tourism sector, authorities believe that reopening tourist spots will prove to be a challenge. For one, health facilities in this destination should be well equipped, not just for COVID-19 but for other emergencies too. Puyat says donations of PCR testing machines from private companies like the MVP Group have been pouring in for well-visited locations like Boracay and Bohol.
Ang main concern kasi ng turista ngayon, domestic or international, is it safe?
Yes.
So, number one, we will syempre open up yung mga first, yung safe, halos walang COVID, number one. Number two, syempre kahit na walang COVID, i-check muna natin yung health protocols just in case may pumasok, walang temperature, tapos during the stay, nagka-temperature. So ano yung protocols na gagawin?
But welcoming international tourists may still be far-fetched. Puyat, however, says they are looking at creating travel bubbles or travel corridors. These are agreements between countries or places allowing tourists to travel without the need for quarantine. Travelers will also get to fly directly to tourist destinations without having to pass through Manila, decongesting NAIA in turn. This, says authorities, might boost growth and open international airports.
It's safe for the domestic tourists to go to that place kasi halos wala silang COVID. And eventually, we can open it to foreign tourists because you can match it with another ASEAN country.
Meanwhile, the DOT has reiterated that accommodation establishments need a certificate of authority before going back to business to ensure the safety and health of travelers. The certification from the DOT remains free of charge. To apply, DOT-accredited hotels may submit a letter of intent to the respective regional offices, while non-DOT-accredited establishments will need to apply for accreditation first.
Well, the hotels right now, we're gearing up for the opening. Hopefully by June. I think we are in good shape as far as the viability of the hotels are concerned.
For food establishments, the DOT reminds businesses to adhere to the guidelines that cover do's and don'ts on the areas of management, customers, and sanitation. To help the businesses thrive amid the pandemic, the tourism chief said a tax incentive is currently being tackled. This means a 3-year income tax holiday and a duty-free importation of capital equipment will be in effect. Tax incentives will cover hotels and restaurants, MICE or meetings, incentives, conferences and exhibition facilities, and tourism transport companies. For News 5, Dale De Vera, We're One News.
From being contact tracers to providing delivery services, authorities have been crafting alternative jobs for jeepney drivers. But the kings of the road aren't so keen about this new proposal. Ryan Ang tells us why.
A number of public utility jeepney drivers have lost their only source of income since the start of the implementation of the community quarantine. To compensate, Malacanang plans to roll out alternative sources of livelihood for them.
Meron din silang plano na gawing delivery service yung ating mga jeepneys kasi nga hindi po pwedeng sakyan because hindi po pwede ang social distancing.
But some PUJ drivers still prefer to resume their pre-quarantine job.
Hindi naman po araw-araw yon at saka hindi rin namin alam kung sa isang araw ilang deliver ang magagawa namin.
Mas magandang pumasada kasi sa pumasada talagang hindi bumababa sa 1,000 ang kinikita namin.
62-year-old PUJ driver Mario Toleran, meanwhile, is amenable to the government's proposal.
Kung ano yung i-offer ng gobyerno, tatanggapin ko po. Kaysa ng mga pakalat.
Several groups like Piston and FEDUDAP, however, think that it will be better to let the PUJ drivers ply their roads as they're willing to follow health protocols.
Kung yung ayuda na pinangako nila, nabibigyan nila mga tsuper, hanggang ngayon, 80% ang hindi pa nakakatanggap ng ayuda na yan eh. What more itong sinasabi nilang hanap buhay na ito?
For Piston, not just the drivers, but also the commuting public will benefit once PUJ operations resume. That propaganda, as per San Juan, is the push for PUJ modernization. According to the DOTR, the resumption of public transport will be done in 2 phases. Under its guidelines, only the modernized jeepneys will be allowed to operate eventually. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
72-year-old jeepney driver Elmer Cordero, one of the Piston 6 detained for protesting the loss of their jobs, was finally freed last night. This was after a Caloocan City Metropolitan Trial Court ordered the release of Cordero. The elderly earlier expressed fears that he will catch COVID-19 inside the Caloocan City Jail. In 2002, Cordero was charged with a 1,000 peso estafa case filed by a private complainant. However, his wife LV says that the case was already resolved. Now that the elderly jeepney driver is free, he says that he will continue to work but as a jeepney mechanic while jeepneys are not allowed to ply the roads.
Paungat ako nabubuhay, hindi ko pa masasabi kasi bibigyan pa ko ng mahabang buhay.
COVID-19 cases in the country have breached the 23,000 mark. This was after the Health Department announced a total of 740 new COVID-19 cases with 452 fresh cases and 288 late cases. There are now a total of 23,732 COVID-19 cases in the Philippines. The DOH also recorded 10 new COVID-19 deaths, bringing the country's death toll to 1,027. Meanwhile, there are now 4,895 COVID-19 recoveries in the country, with 159 new recorded recoveries. And these are the other big stories today. Another city bus route opened Wednesday. That's the Monumento Pitex route. The LTFRB authorized 97 bus units for the said points, but earlier in the day, News 5 was only able to monitor 5 buses. Over in the south, the Pitex Mariano Alvarez route also started operations. This puts total bus routes in and out of the metro to 17. Muntinlupa Representative Rufy Biazon wants Congress to conduct a legislative inquiry into the surge of dummy Facebook accounts. Biazon filed a bill calling for the probe, adding that the alleged breach may have compromised the safety and private data of Facebook users. He adds that this opens up the youth to the threat of cybercrime such as online bullying, identity theft, violations of privacy, among others. The Labor Department has released an advisory on the payment of wages for Independence Day this Friday. DOLE has allowed employers to indefinitely defer payment of holiday work due to the COVID-19 crisis. Meanwhile, establishments that have closed or ceased operations during the lockdown are exempted from providing holiday pay. More big stories after a break. Keep it here on One News. This is a big story, and I'm Jess De Los Santos. The city government of Gapan in Nueva Ecija is set to provide low-cost internet connection to thousands of households as schools implement blended learning. The LGU prepares to install fiber optic cables in more than 30,000 households just in time for the resumption of classes in August. Households will have to pay 50 pesos per month for 5 Mbps. The LGU will also hand out free tablets to students from grades 4 to 12, as well as free laptops to all public school teachers. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, or the DICT, is gearing up for the expected surge in demand for connectivity once classes resume on August 24. That includes the rollout of its free Wi-Fi program for students. DepEd has officially prohibited face-to-face classes in COVID-19 infected areas. Telco giant PLDT remains bullish about its growth this year as they see a spike in demand due to the ongoing quarantine restrictions. Still, the company vows to do its part in providing jobs, especially to those paralyzed by the COVID-19 crisis. Let's listen to Ed Lingao's interview with PLDT Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan here on One News.
How is PLDT positioning or repositioning itself? Do you see any need to retweak or to reprioritize any of your plans for 2020?
Sabi nga nila, don't waste a crisis, di ba? So from a business perspective, there are new opportunities that have opened up, or at least the need has become more immediate and really critical, no? For example, yung education of our students, di ba? Kasi kung hindi bubuksan ng gobyerno ang mga eskwela, for so long as the vaccine is still around, so long as the virus is still around and the vaccine is not yet found, then medyo that's something that we hope we can help address, no? By way of distance learning. We need more data from the Department of Education, how many of the students really don't have smartphones, for example, or laptops.
How does this change the list of products and services that PLDT wants to put forward for the years ahead? Are you looking at offering more services online, whether it's infrastructure or software development?
Well, it's likely to open up new products and services, no? In those areas, even e-government, education, health, food production. We need to be able to have a logistical blueprint of the country, the food production areas as well. The group, now speaking as a group, should get into activities that provide as many jobs as we can. Food production is one of them because it is no matter what labor intensive, no, and helping out the MSMEs get back on their feet, providing digital solutions, providing maybe even financial help to them to get back on their feet. So it's clearly we cannot do it alone, no. This is a very, very, very significant problem.
Residents of a barangay in Pasig were shocked this morning after seeing a long line of Chinese nationals undergoing rapid testing in a small clinic near the public market. Jenny Dongan with the rest of the details.
Over 100 Chinese nationals flocked this small public market clinic in Santa Lucia, Pasig. Their agenda, to undergo rapid testing. This caused alarm and panic among residents and vendors, including Marilyn and Anna.
Mga customer din namin natakot yung time na yun kasi di ba hindi natin maano yung COVID. Hindi natin masabi.
So, naalarma ka?
Naalarma po lahat ng tao dito.
Unang-una, residence to parang residential area. Hindi naman to parang hospital na pwede silang mag-rapid testing dyan. Paano kung may positive nga, di ba?
The clinic's representative, Kane Wee, said that Chinese nationals have to go through rapid testing as they are set to fly back to Guangzhou, China on Friday. The two airline companies set to ferry them require rapid testing, and the clinic was stopped to the test.
These Chinese came from different places all over the Philippines, hindi lang all over Luzon. No? Some came from Davao, Just like yesterday, I heard that I think it's yesterday or the other day when PAL cancel a flight from Davao, they should catch the flight. But some came from like Laguna, Batangas. They own cars coming from maybe Laguna, from Batangas, from nearby provinces. So they take the rapid test here. Once they got it, so they can board the plane. If they are non-reactive, of course.
We insisted that social distancing protocols were observed.
Isa-isa naman sila pumapasok doon sa loob para mag-test.
So after the
Test, then they go na. Because they don't need to get the certificate because we will endorse it to the airline.
But Santa Lucia Chairman Elpidio Bunag ordered a halt to the rapid test. Bunag said his office hasn't received any health documents from the clinic, stating that rapid testing to non-residents will be conducted.
Stop muna yan. Kasi walang papel na nanggaling sa health surpassing. Dapat meron sila. Kada ikatwira nila sa akin na private sila. Kasi, siyempre, na ano yung tao dami nakapila kanina.
The clinic was still able to complete its testing for the Chinese nationals this morning with no one testing positive. For News 5, Jenny Dongon, We Are One News.
Here are some of the biggest stories in sports. President Rodrigo Duterte has signed the law creating the National Academy of Sports. Senate Sports Committee Chair Bongo says Republic Act 11470 aims to promote long-term sports development in the country. Go adds that the NAS campus will be built near the new Clark City. The Philippine Basketball Association may implement a no-play, no-pay agreement for its planned resumption of practices. This as several PBA players expressed reluctance to get back to the court in the middle of the pandemic. PBA Commissioner Willie Marshall urged concerned players to bring the matter to their team management. And rising basketball star Kai Sotto can't help but be excited to launch his bid to become the first natural-born Filipino to play in the NBA. The 18-year-old Cager tweeted a gesture of support to five-time NBA champion coach Brian Shaw, who is tasked to handle Sotto's team in the NBA G League. Veteran actress Anita Linda, who was dubbed as the country's oldest living actress, has passed away. She was 95. The news came from Adolf Alex Jr., who directed her films Adela and Circa. In a Facebook post, Alex said Anita was like a grandmother to him. The sad news was later confirmed by Anita's daughter. In a text message sent to the Philippine Star, she said her mother died at home due to difficulty in breathing. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page on One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage onenews.ph. I'm Jess De Los Santos and we are One News. Good evening.